Imagine waking up and the sun is frozen in the sky. You check the clock and nothing makes sense. Minutes pass and the light does not change. That single stillness is the first clue that the planet has betrayed its most basic rhythm. This is not a story about monsters or lasers. This is a story about physics and how physics can reshape human lives in minutes. Earth spins under our feet at almost 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. If that spin stops suddenly, everything that is not anchored to bedrock keeps moving. Cars, people, and entire cities would be hurled eastward with catastrophic force. Skyscrapers would snap at their bases like twigs. Bridges would peel away from their foundations. The first hour would be a world of collapsing concrete, flying metal, and screaming wind. Tsunamis taller than skyscrapers would sweep continents, swallowing coastlines and turning coast cities into memory. Millions, perhaps billions, would die in the first unforgiving sweep of physics. But the carnage does not end when the dust settles. A second horror arrives that is quieter and more absolute. The air itself begins to move. The atmosphere does not instantaneously stop with the ground beneath it. It slams sideways and strips across the surface like a living thing, ripping oxygen away from places it once filled. Pressure drops and winds become planetary hurricanes measured in thousands of kilometers per hour. Unprotected people would choke and lose consciousness within minutes. Those who survive the initial buildings and waves phase could still be defeated by the loss of breathable air. Where, then, could survival even be possible? The answer lies near the new poles, the points that, by chance, become relatively motionless after the stop. These areas would feel less of the sideways blast and less of the atmosphere's violent shedding. But reaching them would be a nightmare. Roads would be broken, planes would be useless without air, communications would fail. Millions would try to migrate at once, creating desperate caravans across broken highways and ash-choked plains. Without coordinated rescue, without functioning governments, those caravans would become hunting grounds and battlefields. If any place offers refuge, it is a narrow stripe between eternal day and eternal night, the twilight zone. One hemisphere would bake under unending sunlight. Oceans there would boil and the air would turn into a furnace. The opposite hemisphere would be a frozen wasteland, a place where temperatures plunge toward absolute cold and the air congeals into ice. Between these extremes would lie a long, thin band where temperatures are not instantly lethal. This fragile habitable ribbon would become the last contested land on the planet. Cities, if they still exist, would cling to this band like sores on the skin of a dying world. Survival in the twilight would be a new kind of struggle. Fresh water would be priceless because the usual hydrological cycle is broken. Rivers would have been rearranged by tsunamis and then starved or flooded by climate collapse. Farms would fail because soil, light cycles, and pollinators are upended. Batteries and generators would become the new currency, and fuel would be fought over with the ferocity of medieval sieges. Hospitals, if they remain, will be overwhelmed by trauma, infection, and hypoxia. The thin hospitals that do function will be reserved for those a community decides are worth saving. Beyond physical survival, the human mind disintegrates under new skies. Our circadian rhythms are built on dawn and dusk. Without dawn and dusk, sleep cycles collapse. People become disoriented, anxious, and increasingly prone to despair. Mental health crises spike when time itself loses meaning. Children born into the twilight might never learn the comfort of night, and elders will mourn a world that no longer exists. Religion and politics will twist under new pressures. Faith can be both bomb and blade. Some will find comfort in new myths, while others will exploit fear to seize power. Society reorganizes itself quickly when survival is on the line. National borders, commerce, and old institutions crumble or harden into militarized enclaves. Some communities will cooperate and share resources. More will turn inward and hoard. Language and law will change at the speed of necessity. Money becomes meaningless when banks are dark and trade routes are broken. Instead, fuel, clean water, shelter, and medical knowledge become units of value. Could technology save us? Underground bunkers and sealed habitats offered the best chance for prolonged survival. Places designed for extreme environments, research stations, nuclear bunkers, and deep mines become hives of light. But life underground is expensive. It requires power, food production, air recycling, and a social compact that is hard to maintain under stress. Renewable energy installations may still function, but repair crews and supply chains do not. A solar farm in the endless day has the problem of power, but it cannot solve the absence of air on its own. The net result is that only a fraction of the population, those with access and technical know-how, will persist. Long-term, humanity faces a brutal selection. Those who survive will be the people who could adapt their institutions and minds to a world without natural cycles. They will be engineers, farmers who learn closed-loop agriculture, and leaders who can forge cooperation from fear. They will also be the people who were lucky, in the right place at the right time with the right supplies. This is not a story of noble resilience alone. It is also a story of random mercy called luck. As communities stabilize into new micro-societies, fresh moral dilemmas will rise. Who gets water when there is not enough? Who tends the sick when medical supplies are limited? Do we save the old who remember the old rhythms, or the young who will survive longer in the new world? These choices will define the character of post-cataclysm humanity. And they will be anguished, imperfect, and often brutal. There is a final twist that keeps this nightmare close. Technology can delay, but it cannot reverse the fundamental physics. We might seal ourselves in vaults and power them with panels and wind turbines, but the planet outside would remain a hostile landscape. Rebuilding the global infrastructure that once allowed billions to live in comfort would be a multi-generational task. Even if civilization regrows, it will be a different kind of civilization, one that remembers the old sun but never returns to it. So, what should we take away from this thought experiment? First, the life we take for granted, the cycles of day and night, the feel of wind on our skin, the safety of an atmosphere, are gifts of motion and balance. Second, catastrophe can come from the laws of nature as readily as from human malice. And third, survival is as much social as it is technical. Cooperation and shared purpose become the real engines of resilience. Tonight, when you watch the sunset, remember that each dusk is proof of motion and each dawn is proof of balance. We live on a planet that turns, and that turning is why we can breathe, walk, and dream. If the Earth ever stopped, the calendar would not be the only thing lost. We would lose the ordinary miracles that make life possible. The planet does not need to be hostile to take us from ourselves. Sometimes all it needs to do is stop moving. And if that day ever came, surviving would be more than a question of physics. It would be a question of who we are and what we are willing to become to keep living. If this changed how you see Earth, like the video and subscribe for more.